Hello, good afternoon. How is everybody? Welcome to video 7 of 100 videos in 100 days. Thanks for everyone for the comments, for the positive remarks, the feedback that I've been getting, and the messages you've been sending over. It's really it's helpful for me to see what people are thinking and feeling, and I enjoy the feedback. Hopefully, I can improve off the back of what I'm hearing, and it's good to know that people are enjoying it. What I wanted to do today was go through, in a bit more specific, some of the work that I do when I work with organisations who have sales problems that they're looking to fix, where there's an existing sales team that are in place. And I thought this was really relevant today, as I was having a detailed conversation about it this morning, and putting a few bits together. So I thought a good time where it's fresh in my mind to have a bit more of a conversation about it. And the first thing that I looked at in this specific case is the sales process and the structure. So understanding, the full detail and outline of what a sales process and structure really looks like. One of the interesting parts in today's marketplace, and this is actually a stat that's pulled from the company that created the Challenger sale, is that it's estimated, or it was estimated when the book was written, who could be even worse now, that 60% of the buying decision in today's marketplace is made before somebody actually speaks to a salesperson. So they will have done that much research, have been introduced to that much content, that a lot of the decision will already be made. So in that respect, it's really important that your marketing team, or those who are handling the marketing function, are really on top of what they're doing behind the scenes, qualifying leads to marketing qualified lead status before moving over to a sales qualified lead. And really the sales team and the operation, from both a short and a long-term perspective, really are getting in much more at around the opportunity stage, rather than early on. There's four sort of pillars that I look at when I'm working with clients. The vision, the corporate vision, the people, the process, and the management that's in place at the moment. Under each of those, there's different specific elements that I look at. You might have heard the door going there. I'm not editing, so that will just have to go on in the background. So there are different elements into each of those that I'm looking at. In the vision, it's that alignment to corporate strategy. It's great to have a mission statement. It's great to have goals for the company. It's great to have a statement, a corporate strategy, but how much does that align with what sales are trying to achieve? Who in the organization is aware of what that strategy looks like, and is the sales plan directly related to that corporate strategy? You've got the value proposition, what exactly it is the company offers, the products, how that's articulated, the addressable market. And this was a really key element specifically that was looked at previously, because there's a really big difference between your addressable market, the size of the entire market that could purchase your product, and then what your short-term goal should be. And it's a lot easier when you really niche down to become a master of a single industry, versus attempting to try and talk to the entire market, because more often than not that's going to really hold you back and make you struggle. Then you've got the competitive landscape, and that's not always who your direct competitors are. You might have people who are offering a completely different service or product to you, who ultimately are your competition. There's people that could be taking the budgets that you want to get hold of, who offer something completely different. So really understanding who the competitive landscape is, having a really, a sales team with a really strong understanding of every single competitor, what their USPs are versus you, what they're offering, pricing, really to be able to, answer at a point of short notice what it is that people do. And then the final point under the vision element is the actual go-to-market strategy. So what the plan is from a marketing, sales, and corporate perspective to actually take the offering that you have to market, and how does everybody fit into that? And most importantly, is everybody aware of how they fit into that? Because it's great if one department's got a really strong plan of how they're going to do it, but is every department in alignment? Is everybody aware of what the other department is responsible for and how they're going to do it? These are really important elements. You then have the people element, the people part of the organisation. Arguably one of the most important parts of it, but everything works in line with each other. What I would say is most strategic salespeople, this is the element that they tend to look at in isolation, and it isn't enough, but it's definitely one of the key parts, and that is who's in your sales team, what are their roles and responsibilities, how do other departments and individuals feed into what's happening in the sales team, and who is responsible for everything that feeds into sales. As we said at the start, the marketing department are a huge part of your sales function, but so might your receptionist be, so might be the person that you've got who's working in accounts, who's sending out and chasing up invoices. The ability for everyone in the organisation to articulate your value proposition at any point is really, really important. How you hire, and more importantly, just in how you hire, although the process around hiring is super important, it's how you onboard. When does your onboarding start? What does that look like? What information are you giving people before they walk through the door on day one? What information, how does their day look? How structured is it? What happens over the first couple of weeks? When are you checking in? When are you testing? All of these things are so important. One of the big issues that you'll face with retention is in that onboarding phase. You can recruit the right people and lose them through poor onboarding. You can recruit the wrong people and spot it too late with the wrong onboarding as well. So, the elements that go into that are really, really important. Ongoing training and development, how you're putting all these elements into place, how you bring it together, initial training, right the way through to what you do when you continue that training over time. Salary, commission, bonus schemes. It's really important to understand that the commission structure that you offer, while it is there to reward the sales teams or the associated sales teams, that could be marketing teams, it could be everybody, ultimately a commission structure is to guide the direction of the sales team into what it is that you are looking for them to achieve. It's really important to get those targets and the commission correct up front, because if you get it wrong and you have to reduce the targets, you diminish the power of what you're trying to achieve in the first place. And I'm not saying be so rigid that if you clearly have got it wrong to not change it, but really try to do the work to make sure that you don't have to reduce it in the first place. Be realistic, push the teams, understand what the company goals are, but understand that actually it's oftentimes better to add additional incentives at lower stages in a target funnel than it is to actually reduce the overall target, because as I say, you can just really dilute the message and create a culture where in the longer term people think it's acceptable to not hit targets, or that if they all miss, that they will be rewarded for that miss in the longer term. And then finally, under the people bracket is culture and knowledge sharing. Culture is so important in an organisation. Within a sales organisation or the organisational part of a sales structure, the culture can really make or break an organisation. People will stick in with companies through tough times if the culture is right. People will leave businesses very, very easily and very quickly without a lot of thought if the culture is wrong. So I can't emphasize enough, the importance of getting that culture right, of making sure people are aware of what the expectation of the culture is from very early on, and always remember that you are showing your people what your culture is with every single action that you take, all the time. So it's not just about the words that you put on a piece of paper. It's not just about sharing what your values are. It's actually about displaying that at all times. I listened to a really interesting podcast recently with Gary Neville and Stephen Bartlett on Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO, and I was blown away by the culture that Gary's clearly created across all of his businesses. A lot, despite how different actually it is from the upbringing that he had through the Man United training ground. A lot more people focused, a lot less distant than he sort of spoke about Alex Ferguson being. And one of the things that really stood out for me was Gary Neville said that he didn't ever want to work the first week of January. It's a depressing week, it's dark, you've had some great time off and time with your family, so he always takes it off. But he also gives every single person in his organisation that time off as well. It doesn't take it out of their holiday allowance. Doesn't matter if they've used all their 25 days or whatever. If he doesn't work it, they don't work it, and that's the same for when he takes holidays throughout the year. I do think to a degree that can be quite restrictive as a business leader for you to be able to take the time off that you want to, because I think breaks are important. But that being said, the culture that shows from Gary is absolutely huge. So, and his people will simply feel that all the time. So, again, I think that's a really important sort of factor and element to understand. Culture is not just about words; it's also hugely about the actions that you take. Next part that we look at is the processes that are in place. So sales and marketing, how closely are they aligned? How closely are their strategies and tactics aligned? How closely is their plans? How much interaction is there between the two of them when those are being created? It can be a real issue, and I've seen it be very detrimental before, when you have a marketing department who just create a marketing strategy and then they just hand that over to the sales department, and the sales department have then created their sales strategy. The two are misaligned, and then you just don't have a positive long-term working relationship. Ultimately, a prospect to a customer to an ongoing customer is one single journey, from the very first time they interact with the brand right the way through to when they're screaming and shouting about how good the product and service is 2, 3, 4 years down the line. That should be one seamless journey, and that can only happen if every single department feeds into it and is aligned in their thinking. The methodology behind winning customers, how you want to go about doing that, the process that you use to actually win the customers, once they are in that sales qualified leads, what the process looks like, where that's built from. Do you have really strong sales performers? Are you breaking down what they do into the sum of its parts and sharing that as best practice and making sure that everyone's doing similar things? Or does everybody just wing it and do it by yourself? I guarantee of those two situations, the company that has vast amounts of people winging it is the one where you're probably seeing a lot of inconsistency in your results, and in what level of percentage of your sales teams are actually delivering on a regular basis. Maximizing the customer lifetime value, so looking at how closely you are working with the ongoing customer care element of the company to ensure that customers are being looked after and valued to bring out the maximum customer value of them. I worked with an organisation a while ago who had sales teams. In fact, I work with a few that have done this, where their sales teams were just responsible for everything. And the problem with that comes, salespeople want to just focus on selling, or you get, lazier salespeople sometimes who just want to focus on the easy part of it. And when that comes to things like complaints, they don't want to deal with it. When it comes to admin, they don't want to deal with it. They want to get on with the job of just generating revenue. And customers lose out on things like that. So, is your ongoing customer care process, designed to help maximize lifetime customer value by treating the customer, really well at all points? Because if you treat your customer really, really strongly at all points along the way, then they're not going to go anywhere else for the services that you offer. And if you introduce new services in the future, they're going to want to be part of that. But that doesn't come if you don't look after them before that that point comes about. CRM technology, really important in today's marketplace. There's so many different digital products that are available to help make every team and department's life easier, from understanding the entire journey of a prospect to customer, to being more organized, to communicating with clients on a regular basis. A well-built CRM delivering the correct data for every stakeholder across the organization can help to both increase sales in the short and mid-term and create new strategies for the future if done correctly. And then documentation and collateral. Are you creating best practices in all of your documentation? Is it digital so that you can see what is and isn't working? Are you creating templates that can be changed and interchanged with, different colors and images and points of text, tracking what they are so that you can see what is being successfully? Is everybody in your organization using the same documentation in the same way, so that you can, you've got what's best practice and everybody's using it? Or again, similar to the methodology, is everybody just completely doing their own thing and again just winging it and using what they think is best? Really important, again, with so much software, with so much data, with so much with the ability to do things in such a organized fashion. Are you using that, or are you allowing your sales team to just do what they think is best, and again offering really inconsistent results between departments and individuals? And then finally, the thing that we look at is the management. So how good the team is at forecasting back into management. I once had a guy that worked for me who was one of the best people at forecasting ever. He always knew exactly whether or not, you put the phone down from that call and he'd know whether or not someone was gonna buy or not. And that is an art. That is really understanding you've got a strong process and what the buying signs are. It will help you to do that. And if you don't have that, I did an exercise with a team once where we incentivized the forecasting. So we got people to forecast, and the closer you were to forecasting, the bigger your incentive bucket was. And it completely changed how people forecasted and the things that they looked at, because they knew that actually they were going to be rewarded. Not more, but part of that reward was going to be whether or not they got those forecasting right. KPIs, are you tracking the right things? Are you tracking KPIs because you think it's the right thing to do? Are you tracking KPIs because in the longer term it's going to give you the information that you need to help work with and improve your sales team? Sales meetings in the structure. Again, if you've got an organization that's got several different sales managers in there, are they doing their sales meetings in the right way? Are they structured so that everybody is delivering it consistently? If you're running your sales meetings at the moment as a business owner, is the content of those meetings motivating and giving your team the tools that they need to be better at their roles, or is it actually holding them back? And those can be really tough things to admit if you're the person that's doing it, but it can be a really, really important exercise to look at. Performance management, how's that done? Is that done consistently? What does that involve? Do people feel like they're being performance managed just because you want them out the door? Or do they feel they're being performance managed for what performance management should be about, which is improving their skills and helping them to achieve the goals that they want to do? Down to the point of our personal goals feeding into your performance management or not. Strategic sales planning, a really, really key one that I think a lot of sales leaders sort of ignore or don't structure enough. Thinking about things in short, mid and long-term goals and having a strategy that runs alongside them can be really, really important. It can also be important to predetermine the bandwidth in which you can pivot within that. If every time you create or start down the path of a new strategy, the second that you see something go wrong, you completely pivot in a wholly different direction, it shows a lack of confidence in that initial piece. Quite often when you think about something that's got mid or long-term returns, it's going to take a period of time to get to that. Yes, you have to set that into the initial expectations of, we have 12 weeks, 6 months, 2 years to see this level of results come from this. But if you decide that that's the course you're going to take and those are the parameters of success or failure at certain milestones, don't make huge adjustments in the shorter term. It can say to your sales team that that either you're not that strategic thinking or everything that you do is really short term. It can be okay to make minor changes and pivot very quickly. And of course, if you see things fall off an absolute cliff, then you may be forced down the path of pivoting and changing that strategic sales plan sooner. But I would argue you probably shouldn't be changing things that dramatically unless either market forces you to do it, or there's a a large, cultural change that's needed from it. The majority of the time, you should have a strategic sales plan that's based over the longer term, with smaller changes, incremental changes throughout it that can help you get to where you want to be in the longer term. And then the final piece that really ties all of that together is integration with the wider business. So, how integrated is everything that we've just discussed there with everything else that happens across the wider business? Do your accounts department feel like they're completely separate from your sales department? Do the people who work on the second floor see themselves as completely separate from sales who are up on the 25th floor? Really important that everything that you do is communicated regularly throughout the organisation, that all of the systems, the software, the processes integrate with the wider business. Putting your putting non-sales people through the sales training can be a really strong way of getting them to understand why sales do the things that they do. Getting the sales team to work in other departments and understanding what it is that they do can be a really strong part of that as well. Getting your sales team to live in the shoes of your customers for a period of time is also something that can be really beneficial if you want to get your sales team to have a really strong understanding of what it is that your customers do. Look, I appreciate that was a whistle-stop tour of something that is very, very detailed and with lots of different elements that spring off of it, and I'd be more than happy to chat through any of those things in any more details. If you've got a sales team already, or you're thinking about building one in the future, you've had one in the past, and any of that rings true to you, then drop me a message, get in touch. I'd love to have a deeper chat about it and see if there's anything that I can do to help you solve some of those issues. Thanks a lot. Take care.